Flag salute. Sunshine Law Statement, all requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been met for this meeting of the Board of Education of the Borough of Oradell. Notice of this meeting was filed with the record in town news and all persons requesting such notice. Mrs. Walker, would you read the mission statement?
The Oradell Public School is dedicated to the ongoing pursuit of educational excellence through comprehensive, innovative curriculum and instruction. The district is committed to providing opportunities for social, emotional, and academic discovery to foster curiosity, courage, and character. Our goal is to prepare our students to become lifelong learners who are self-directed, resilient, productive, and responsible citizens.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Griffin? Here. Mrs. Levy? Mrs. Norian?
Here.
Mrs. Shapiro? Mrs. Walker?
Here.
Mr. Walsh?
Here.
Dr. Wesley? Here. Mr. Darian?
Here.
Mrs. Nichols?
Here. Open to the public for agenda items only. Okay. I'm surprised we have even two public here with the weather. None of us even want to be here, so Big 10 to you two. Mr. Griffin already told me he doesn't want to be here either, so.
I did. I said that I did not want to be here in the rain. You can put that on the record, but I'm here.
Yes. So I asked Dr. Angel to give everybody a copy in their folder tonight of our culture and climate survey, since it was from the spring and we hadn't seen it yet. So take that home, look at it. Moving forward, oh, actually, who's going to the school board's meeting? Because our attorneys wanted to know. Who's not going? You're not going, right? I'm not going. Is Nancy going?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
I don't remember.
And Robin is going, so the three, just you, me, and Nancy. Okay, so I'll let them know. Because I think they were mentioning maybe dinner or something, so
Yes.
we'll get them the names. All right, superintendent. Oh, before we move on, we want to welcome Mr. Marmora. We are so happy. Yay, we have a BA. We're very happy to have you here. And we hope you have a good year with us. Dr. Ansel?
Thank you. To start with, we're going to be presenting the HIV self-assessment, so I'm going to ask Ms. Bozios to step up to assist with that.
Vanna White over here will be handing out copies of the presentation. Vanna.
Thank you, Vanna.
Thank you.
Who provides the fashion for this?
He did put a tie on special for you today.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Maybe we should call him Van.
No, we'll call him Vanna. So just as a reminder, I don't stand here today as principal of Oradell Public School, but instead as the district's anti-bullying coordinator, which is a new position for me. So it's the first time I've gotten to give the self-assessment report. Just as a reminder, the state mandates that every spring we assess ourselves on how we are doing to meet the laws under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. There are 8 core elements that are broken down into 26 subsections. After I present this evening, there will be a resolution on the next board meeting for you to accept our self-assessment score, at which time Dr. Ansel will certify it, and it will go off to the Department of Education. Then later in the spring, I will stand up here again and give you pretty much the exact same presentation once the state accepts our score At that point, our score will go on the front page of the district website, and it will also include information for parents about what that score means. And if you go to the front page of our website right now, you will see our self-assessment score from last year, along with other accompanying HIB information. So, as I said, the HIB self-assessment is broken into 8 core elements: harassment intimidation programs and initiatives, training on the Board of Education approved HIB policy, staff instruction and training, curriculum instruction on HIB and how our state standards relate to HIB, HIB personnel, which refers to the appointment of anti-bullying specialists, the anti-bullying coordinator, and the school safety, culture, and climate team, our protocols for incident reporting, investigation, and reporting to the community, i.e. this specific self-assessment score. Here you will see the past 4 years, our scores in those 8 categories. For the board, on the last 4 pages of the handout that Mr. Hagopian gave you, you will actually also see the 26 subcategories. So I'm going to give you a moment to digest that. I mean, you'll see across the bottom that we've had an upward trend since 2015 and 16. You'll also notice that we typically do always score higher in categories 6, 7, and 8. Okay, now that's not going to mean a lot to you because it's just an overall score. So what does it mean? Well, when we look at that score, the first thing we look to notice is where are we doing better than we have done previously? So the 2 areas that we went up is in how we are annually establishing HIB programs, initiatives, and other approaches. And to give ourselves an increase in that category, we need to be able to document all the programs that we've done. So mostly what has come in this category is all of Mrs. Mason's ongoing programs each month towards creating a positive climate at OPS. When we add Open Circle to that next year, we'll have even more evidence to increase in this category. The other area where we increased this year is our training of our school safety, culture, and climate team, because we did send them, I attended anti-bullying coordinator training. Both Mr. Hagopian and Mrs. Hawley are anti-bullying specialists for the school, and they also attended additional trainings this year, and our school culture and climate team also attended a workshop. Now, you may be saying to yourself, okay, Megan, you have 2 points there that we went up, but our overall score only went up 1 point. There is one category where we went down this year. It was in training with suicide prevention, and it's no longer will be an issue for the district because as we've changed compliance software, our previous compliance software, the state would not state that the suicide prevention course in it would count to meet their mandates. However, as we moved from Global Compliance Network to the Safe Schools program, the Safe Schools program does meet the state's requirements. So all staff who have not been trained in the last 5 years in suicide prevention are mandated this year to do that 2-hour training, and that will put us up an additional point next year. Our focus areas for 2019-20 are very similar to our focus areas for 2018-19, and truthfully, as I took on this position, I was remiss to look at Mr. Mistretta's presentation from last year to realize some of the areas where we really did need to work. So that's going to be an ongoing goal. And really, it has to do with how are we tracking the effectiveness of our HIB programs? And we talked about that with SEL at our last one. It's a really difficult thing to track because we don't have a lot of behavioral infractions, and it's all qualitative data. So we are working with our culture and climate team to say what can we document to use as assessment. And the other area you may have noticed, and I think I shared at our last, either in the district newsletter or at our last board meeting, that I think the number is I've trained 170 parents in HIB this year. That was one of the areas I wanted to focus on in our community to make sure everyone understood what harassment, intimidation, and bullying was versus what conflict is, and how as you as a parent can be proactive in dealing with it, but how do you also deal with an incident if it does occur. The one area where we need to improve is making sure to train our contracted service providers. So the women that come in from Nicholas Markets they actually also need training. Some of our regional people who we contract out to, we just need to do a better job of making sure they understand and documenting that as well. And core element 5, while our school safety, culture, and climate team actually met more this past year than they ever have in the past, I think they had 3 meetings, they're mandated to have 2. We've been using that as a programming committee. So you as a parent that sits on it, you as a teacher that sits on it, what are the ideas you have through your lens for programming at Oradell Public School? However, the state also asks that that committee look at the board's HIB policy, the protocols, and that they also, if they see any suggestions there, have an opportunity to give advice in that area, and we have not taken that committee in that area, so that will be an added area for this year. So overall, I think, if you bring it down to layman's terms of if we were in school, well, we have an A, it's probably at a 90%. Do I think we can do better? Yes, but I see an upward trend, and what I'm always most pleased with is that when it comes to the legal aspects, we are on point. Whether it's investigation, informing parents, we are meeting the letter of the law exactly.
Does the board have any questions for Ms. Bozios?
Just looking at the assessment results, it's certainly clear that we're progressing each year, which is, I think, remarkably great. So the open circle then will contribute more
Yes,
to...
it's an additional program, and the parent training of it will also help us because the assessment doesn't just talk about what are we doing for students and teachers, but what are we doing for parents and community members. What I'm always really excited about, I want us to grow, but I always want to know that we're being honest. I don't want a 78 just to say we have a 78. I want to know with every fiber of my being that we earned that 78. So when we sit as a committee, we're hard on ourselves, and we make sure we have all the documentation, because there are a lot of school districts out there that say they have 78s, and I want to know if anybody ever questions us that I can prove it. And I think we're on our way to being able to do that.
You have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So, to put this in perspective, how many documented cases did we have this past year?
We had
that-
2 investigations all year, which is the lowest we've had since I've been here. Prior to that, our average was 5 a year. We had 1 confirmed and 1 unfounded.
Okay.
And that actually, I really believe, is attributed to the fact in the past 2 years prior, we had 5 investigations each year, 1 confirmed. I think we've done a better job of explaining to children and now also to parents that there's conflict and there's HIB. And I think we've done a better job because when somebody says HIB, we investigate. Even if we don't believe it's HIB, you say bullying, we investigate.
Right. And that's roughly 750 students.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And actually, last year we made it till January without any. Thought we were going to do it for the first time ever.
Any questions? I have a question. I believe you that you probably rate yourself harder than you're supposed to, because I see other schools are 78, 77, so I'm not really concerned with the score, to be honest with you. I do have 2 questions, though. You had mentioned under 2A, you rated yourself a 2, and that's because you said you have to work on getting the contracted service providers. Okay, so my question is, I have 2 separate ones. 2B, HIV policy training, including instruction on preventing HIV on the basis of certain categories, and you gave yourself a 2. Would that not be already included in our training or automatically?
Right, but the contracted service providers aren't part of that trainings, those
But I
trainings.
feel it's 2 different questions. So the first one, A, you already marked yourself low for not training the contracted providers. But B, you're saying HIB policy training included instruction on prevention on the basis of protected categories. So you're saying your training to everybody did not include that, or it could have been better, but I would think it would be in there already.
Well, because When this definition is a little smaller than the actual rubric they give me, they use the word contracted service providers again.
Oh,
So
for B?
because-
It says B in there.
Yes,
Okay.
so because
So it's the
they did
same,
it
it's the
twice,
same thing.
I
Okay.
felt I had to.
So then, what about 3A, when it says each teaching staff member completed 2 years?
Yes.
And I'm assuming that's the law, right? 2
Yes.
hours in 5 years.
So what happened was
why did
last
we-
year, we brought in, 2 years ago, excuse me, we brought in someone from West Bergen Mental Health. So if you were here that year, which is what last year's score was, it was on the 2018-19 school year. So everybody who was a teaching staff member in the district attended that training. It was on a professional development day. We don't do that every year. We needed a mechanism for the people who were new last year. Okay? Global Compliance Network, which was our online training program, would not state for us that it met the state's requirements. However, Safe Schools, which is what comes with our new risk management people, has said that their program does meet the state's requirements. So moving forward, including this year, that will always be a 3 because we have that resource now.
Okay. I think I saw one more, but I don't know. What about 5C, met at least 2 times per year? The SST met?
Yeah.
Is that the legal?
Yeah, if you look at the longer rubric for it, you're actually supposed to also include external members of the community, such as police. And while we do invite the police to our district safety meetings,
Okay.
we've never included them on the school culture and climate, which, again, it's something very easy to do. We ask Detective Sergeant Fedorchak to come to a meeting, but if there's one word out of that I know we haven't done, I'm not going to give us that score. I mean, the other piece the other area we lost a point is we are doing a lot with HIB, but I couldn't document times when in general instruction, so it's a language arts lesson, and we're reading The Outsiders in 6th grade, I could not document times when that lesson connected to HIB. Very easy to do, I just couldn't find the proof of it.
Any other questions? Okay, good job. Don't rate yourself so hard next year.
All right, thank you very much. So the other thing that I wanted to give you an update on is I put into your meeting folder memo and some attachments that came to me from our supervisor of special services, Linda Disler. And I wanted to let you know that on October 2nd, she conducted a related services expo, which was a huge success. And she shared in her memo some information about what the expo was and what it included. And then she also included her survey, which, as you can see, was extremely positive. So I just wanted to let you know the good work that Ms. Disler is doing and how well received this program was in early October. So it's certainly something that we're planning to continue to do again in the future. And then the last thing that I wanted to give you was the monthly enrollment report. So as of September 30th, the total student enrollment was 758, and the student attendance rate for the month of September was 98.02. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Marmora.
Thank you, Mrs. President. I'm excited to report that my first day was on October 7th, and each day has been action-packed so far. I would like to thank everybody for the warm welcome and hospitality, all the staff, the board members, and I'm getting to know and getting acclimated with the building, the staff, and the systems, and I want everyone just to bear with me, and again, I thank you for your patience as I will be asking what seems like a million questions, I'm sure. Finally, I'd like to report that our auditors are now on site. So right now I'm working closely with them to assist them in closing out our 18-19 school year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. We'll move to minutes review of September 25th. Any questions, you can email our business administrator. We have approval of September 12th minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes of September 25th.
Motion by Mr. Walsh. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, September 12th, I'm sorry.
September 12th, second by Mrs. Walker. Any questions? Call the question.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Dr. Westlake? Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Mrs. Nichols?
Yes, we'll move to committee reports. Administrative items, Mr. Darian, would you take those?
Yes, I would like to introduce items A1 and A2.
Do I have a second? Second by Dr. Westlake. Any questions? Call the question.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Dr. Westlake? Mr. Darian?
Yes.
Yes.
President Nichols?
Buildings and grounds, Mr. Darian.
Yes, I'd just like to give an update. We had a meeting, subcommittee meeting back on the 10th. The minutes are included in the packet. We also had a substantive meeting last week on Thursday. It was a construction meeting. We're at the end of the project, and so we have a list of, like a punch list of items that are outstanding that we went through. Things like window sills and miscellaneous conduit pipes and some HVAC issues and the flooring, you know, the area that was tiled, when they pulled up the tile, some of the mastic underneath or the leveling compound was brought up with it. So, you know, the contractor was like, oh, this is going to involve more work than we anticipated. So, you know, we had discussions over that. And for the most part, everything is moving now forward. And I would recommend that maybe if you want to, sometime over the next few days, go down there and look at the progress. We're quickly approaching finishing the ceiling. When they put the ceiling tiles in, they're done up in the upper sections, and they'll start on the floor. The walls have already been painted and finished, and there's just a few, you know, small items, but we're getting there. So I just want to give you that quick update. So with that, let me introduce for facility use items B1.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Mr. Walsh. Any questions? I have a question or a comment. Okay, so I know we've taken specific dates off the agenda, but I think we should categorize which ones they're going to be and which ones they aren't, because I think our in-house things, maybe we want to do that. For example, like junior basketball and the Cultural Association, we still have the dates because they're not our, okay, so we have other things on here, for example. So we have, under the OEA, we have a dance-a-thon and math league. So math league is really not, should not be under OEA because it's really part of Oradell Public School. So I think the dance-a-thon is a separate thing. I'm not even sure that's category A, and I'm wondering like what day of the week it is and what time of the day it is. You know, music department, category A. That's a little bit different. We have the dates for the other ones. Do we know what day that, like what day of the week that is and what time?
It's on the calendar. Check it for you.
Okay, because I'm not sure a dance-a-thon for the OEA would be category A. It's like,
It's
it's a
students.
Tuesday at what time? It doesn't matter who's running it. What time?
3:30.
And are they, okay, so Okay, so I guess, did they give us their insurance? They're not an in-house group, so can we pull it till next time? Can we table it just till the next meeting? It's not going to change anything? Does anybody have a comment or question?
January, right?
It's January. I just want to make sure that it's the right category and we have the insurance.
Okay.
So no walkathon this year? No? This could be better. So do you want to make a motion to,
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that items B1, item 2, dance-a-thon, that we table this till our next meeting.
I'll second.
and also take Math League out from under OEA, because it's really not OEA. So do we have to have a motion to do the table, or can he just redo his motion to just not include?
He can just redo his motion.
So just redo your motion. Is that what you just did?
Not
Yeah,
include the Math
Okay, so
League.
that's the new motion. Any questions on the new motion? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin?
Yes?
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Dr. Westlake? Mr. Darian?
Yes.
President Nichols?
Yes, curriculum, Mrs. Norian.
Yes, we had intended to have a meeting this afternoon, but we postponed it in order to make time for another meeting to take place. So I didn't feel that there was an extreme need. We're in the midst of a few things, and I think that we could let our meeting go for the month. So we'll just pick up on the next meeting. But that being said, we still have to approve item C1.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Walsh, any questions? Call the question?
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Dr. Westlake? Mr. Darian?
Yes.
President Nichols?
Yes, finance, Mr. Darian, would you take that since Mrs. Shapiro is not here?
Yes.
Do we have these? Do we have the check registers? I guess before you make a motion?
Do we have them? I didn't get
What are you looking for?
The
check register.
check registers, do we have the hand check registers?
That's the one I gave Dorothy.
That's the one you gave me, but nobody else has it, right? Okay, so, let's see. Okay, I have the hand check register here for $469, if anybody wants to see it. Unless you want to pull it, I have it here. I don't know if I have payroll. Do I have payroll? I think I have payroll, right?
No.
No, okay. What do you want to do?
I'd like to make a motion, introduce finance items D1 through D5.
I'll second.
Any questions?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
As you can see, D5, it's a mini grant for trips, and I mean, it's $1,200 and $710. It may be small, but it makes a big difference. You know, we have mini grants almost every other agenda, so I'd like to thank the Franklin Institute and John Marshall Weather for their generous contributions. Oh, is it?
I think it was.
Oh, I'm sorry, those
PTA.
are the events.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, PTA. Thanks very much. I mean, PTA's been wonderful, so.
And so is the Franklin Institute, whoever that is.
They're actually receiving the funds.
No, no, I'm just-
If John Marshall's the one getting paid.
You may not know this, Mr. Marmora, but last meeting, I think we pulled the financial reports for July and August because we didn't have them in the packet, so maybe, they're not on here yet, so can we add them to the next meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
they'll be on the 30th.
Okay. Any other questions? Call the question.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Dr. Westlake? Mr. Darian?
Yes.
President Nichols?
Yes. Delegate report, Mr. Walsh?
I have nothing to report, but workshop starts Monday. John and I were talking before the meeting. We're staying at the Sheridan, and John's going to check if there's parking at the Sheridan. Greg would know that, right?
No, there's not. The Sheridan vouches for parking in the convention center. So you park in the convention center, you just go to the convention, leave your stuff in the car, then check in after 3 or whenever, and
He's going to check that out, too.
they give you a stamp or some sort of thing that, well, no, they give you something in the meantime to get in and out.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about paying. It's really nice, convenient.
I think everyone's mileage was on last, all the expenses were on last, we've done all the mileage, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, personnel, Mrs. Walker.
Yes, thank you. I'd like, well, we met this afternoon, a number of things on the agenda regarding vacancy, new hires, et cetera. You'll be getting in your packets the minutes from the meeting. And with that being said, I'd like to present F1, although we're going to, it's to be determined all the mileage, any mileage that's on your F1 packet for personnel will be determined at a later
Right.
date.
Per board, per policy, right?
No, just to be determined.
Because
We're not-
it's been changed, right.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any questions? Call the question.
Mr. Griffin?
Yes.
Mrs. Norian?
Yes.
Mrs. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Walsh?
Yes.
Dr. Westlake? Mr. Darian?
Yes.
President Nichols?
Yes, policy, Mrs. Levy's on here. Mr. Griffin, anything you want to update us with?
You caught me off guard. Yeah, so there's a new policy manual that we had redone for us by the New Jersey School Board Association that we're reviewing now. There's also a new policy that is under review related to the use of medicines in the school. I think that's the main thing, but you kind of caught me off guard, so,
And fundraising probably should be on for next time,
Yeah.
right? Those two,
yeah,
I
good call.
think.
I had a question for policy. Have we looked at any policies on memorial and gift giving?
Yeah, that has been discussed. We are still discussing it right now, so I can't give you the final decision. One of the things that we were looking at was what memorials exist in the schools right now, and trying to figure out if it makes sense. Some of the things that are under consideration is the amount of time from the time someone says they want to have a memorial to the time it would actually happen. To ensure that it's essentially like you don't end up having a school full of memorials because XYZ person wants to have it. We're trying to have a thoughtful analysis of it, looking at other schools, how they handle it. I don't think we have the final decision on that yet, but we have been looking at it.
The New Jersey School Boards, too, is a great resource to run it by them, and they come up also with some helpful wordage for...
Yeah, definitely, we have looked at their stuff and other districts in the area. Right now, as a committee, I think that we're still trying to come to a unified version of what we want. Once we get to that, we'll pass it back to the board.
Great, thank you.
So you can move right on into public relations.
I'm not surprised on this one. That sounds good to me. Thanks. Our next Public Relations Committee meeting is October 30th. Dorothy, also thank you so much for sharing the Culture and Climate Survey. One of the things that our committee hasn't looked at yet, but now that it's in front of us, I just want to bring it up to the board. We had added some questions to the climate survey. One of them was, I find the Board of Education approachable and responsive. And we were trying to determine, like, okay, what's the reality of what the public thinks. one of the things that we found from the results were 43% of the people said they disagree or strongly disagree with that statement of approachable and responsive. I don't think that's definitive in any way, but like it says in this report, it is an area of concern that we should look at further. So I would request the board consider having PR create a task force to better understand these answers.
Jeremy, I think it would be good to break down that question into maybe two questions, because, you know, as I hear it, and if I were to read it, approachable, if we're, you know, the Board of Ed is approachable and responsive, I would think about the second half more than the first half, and my answer would be based on whether or not we were responsive. And I think this really is two questions. So if we decide to do anything, would you consider breaking this out into, you know, is the Board of Ed approachable, and when they're tasked with something, are they responsive in their replies?
I think that's a great idea. I mean, ultimately, this is just highlighting that there is something to look at. I think that we need to ask more questions around it. I think my focus would be like, maybe we get a task force together and ask a little bit more about what people mean by approachable, what they mean by responsive, what experiences they've had, collect that information, report it back to the board. I think we all would agree, and from what I've seen on this board, we all try our best to be responsive and approachable. But I understand your thought on this idea that the question maybe doesn't get to the point. So let's spend a little time trying to get it to exactly what people were trying to say. I think that's important.
Can we also, you know, I'm grappling with this, right? So, you know, unfortunately, you know, we are not like, for instance, our role is not the same as the principal's role with the Wednesday notices. You know, the principal communicates a lot more with the parent community, and there's more of a two-way back and forth with the teachers and the administrative staff. We're just a, you know, board of trustees that oversees the operations of the school. And so, you know, in many cases, you know, why would you approach a board member when you really should be going through the chain of command? So I think what's important is that, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it, I'm just saying that we use this as an educational exercise also to say, you know, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, and how we should be handling things, because I can think of...
So I want to just stop you for a second, because you said, why would we want people to think that a board member should be approachable? I want to make sure that you understand that the wording of the question is very much, I find the Board of Education approachable. So it's not about an individual, it's about the board as a whole. So I think that that's clear in the question, and I think what we as an entity want to be is approachable and responsive as a board, not as individuals necessarily, but as a board, and I think we would all agree on that.
I agree with it. But when we look at it, and it looks, you know, 40% or whatever this is, 43% strongly disagree, but when we look at the number of people, it's 28 people out of our community. So if you're going to put a task force together, are you going to put a task force together for all the areas of concern or just this one?
So my recommendation at this point, you know, like this information, the committee hasn't looked at yet. I did get a copy of this report last week, but we hadn't had a committee meeting yet. So, you know, now that we have it as a group, I think it makes sense to have the PR committee make a recommendation to the group of what a task force would be, how we would explore this and learn more.
Is it me, or is this confusing? Are these the only questions that were asked? Like, I personally, I mean, can we get a printout of like every question and how it broke down? Is that possible or no? I think that would be more helpful. Would that be more helpful?
We didn't, the climate survey, I think, exists from the state. There were a series of 3 questions we added as a PR committee. One about innovative curriculum, because as a board we have this mission to have innovative curriculum. Also one on social and emotional learning. The good news is both of those questions, the responses were really positive. So, you know, kudos to the staff for having social and emotional learnings, and kudos for innovative curriculum. The one that we added that was a concern was the responsive and approachable. And, you know, I think it's just worth exploring further.
Can we get this printed out by question, I think, so we can see actually how many responses to each? And then I see that we have a lot of the parent text, the parent guardian text responses, but were there any staff responses also?
Staff is in there, and
Yeah, but are
parent.
there
Yeah, it's
any-
all in there.
Are the comments from staff in there? Because
Yes.
where is it? What page is it on?
Yeah, sure.
Where does it start?
I think it's the first set.
Well, that says parent.
Parent, that's
Okay,
parent
let me
guardian.
just,
This says staff text.
so students,
What page is that, Catherine?
It says there's a 1.
they're all in, they're all
So
going to
it's-
say 1, unfortunately,
okay.
because it
It's
looks
the
like,
beginning of staff.
it's the back
response.
page, 1 here, staff text retreats. There's a lot of good information in this, and I haven't had enough time to look at all of it. That was just one of the things that the committee had put that question in it initially. So I'm sure there's more to glean from this, but the staff retreats, staff texts are in here.
So this is all staff.
Okay.
Could I just, I think, Jeremy, maybe you can clarify it, or Dr. Ansel, the basic survey was state mandated, is it, John? And we just inserted
That's
those
correct.
3 particular questions. So
Yes.
this is done every year. This is nothing new. And then the
correct.
committee added these 3 things. So this gets sent to the state then? Is that correct, John?
So we're required to show evidence to the state that we conducted a culture and climate survey, that we shared the data with the board and with our staff. So that's what.
All right. Just to comment, and I think it's important, that question about being approachable and so on, to develop a committee. I guess we have to, like you said, discuss it, because we went through and paid New Jersey school boards to come and do a whole thing on strategic planning, and that it's difficult for folks to come out. So we're talking about 28 people that actually completed this survey for the.
I just think, I agree, I'm not wanting to redo a strategic plan. And the only thing that I wanted to bring up in front of the whole board, just as a permission kind of thing, is, we've got a portion of our community, and either you want to look at this and say, we got to throw it all out because there's only 60-something people who responded, or you say, oh my gosh, some people, and in this case, 43% of the people who responded to that question said that we weren't approachable or responsive. And I just think we need to look into it further.
It's statistically insignificant, which you and I had this conversation. It's 28 people out of our entire community. However, you and I had this conversation. I do think it was a poorly written question. A professional surveyor would not have written a question this way. And let's say 28 people said the board is unapproachable. We don't have 28 people that have come to our meetings in the last 2 years, except when they come to see their kids. So those people are not the ones that answered it. So again, we have to go a little bit back to our retreat and what Matt Lee said, that you cannot really ask the public to rate or do a report card on the board because they do not know or understand how we are supposed to be or what we are supposed to be doing. So I would like to put that out
I would
there.
argue that the public does know what it feels like when a board is approachable and responsive.
No, they don't. They don't know how we're supposed to be legally. They don't. And Matt Lee explained this at our retreat this summer. So I would, listen, you take it to committee, you bring it to the board, but to say 28 people in our community said that when we have not had 28 different people come to our board meetings.
Why don't we?
If we had 50 people here and 50 people said that, I'd say, yeah, we have a problem, but you and I don't always agree on this. Take it to committee and then bring it to the board.
All right, so the only other thing
But I
would-
do think you have to keep in mind, 28 people is statistically insignificant in this community.
Yeah, the only other thing I would like to point out, since you were mentioning that the question was poorly worded, that the question was vetted through you in the committee. You had every opportunity to adjust the question.
It wasn't vetted through me, and I'm not the final say. I see things that go through all the committees, but I am not going to stop something because I know what's going to happen if I change something on it. I know what will happen if I change a question like this, so I allow the committees to work completely
Thank you. I'll take it to committee. I appreciate you allowing that. I think it's a good idea for us as a board to do anything in our power to make sure as a board we are seen as responsive and approachable.
Were there places for people to make comments about that question, like the other questions, or no?
I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to find more information out, and what I'll do
But were
is,
there on this survey, like they were
So
able to
this was-
comment on a lot of other things?
this question was just I think it's yes, no, or no, strong, it was an agree, disagree, strongly agree, disagree kind of question. There wasn't a follow-up spot for them to fill in information. These are the kinds of things that we can explore. And maybe as a committee, we determine that we don't want to look at this. My recommendation would be that we would, and I'll look into it and I'll come back.
One thing we had talked about, Jeremy and I, the people that responded, I guess it's completely anonymous, right? You could not go back to respondents who said and find out things, no?
Deliberate.
You can't go back anonymously to them though, right? Like, okay.
I'm sorry, Greg.
Greg.
Just a quick aside, when we say that we're not aware of what the board does in our role, maybe our first priority should get that brochure out,
Sure, I think that can be a part of it, and we
which
can
I
we can
think
vet
would
that
be
with
prioritized, right? And then
vet it with some sort of task force to see if that helps. I think that sounds great.
a task force to see if the brochure worked?
So if you're trying to solve a problem, you need to define the problem you're going to have. So right now, either we have a problem with our public relations or we don't. And what I'm hearing from folks is, look, we are not having a public relations problem because the public doesn't know what we do. And maybe we should just inform them on what we do. I think we need to better understand what the public's opinion of us is. Right now, this says that they think of us as unapproachable and non-responsive. That's a few people, but I think we need to dig into it.
Okay, so, but first thing, we're going to get that brochure out, right? So they know what we do.
That'll be a part of it, definitely. The other thing on public relations that I would like to offer to you guys as something that the committee could look at. Our mission statement talks a lot about us fostering curiosity, courage, and character. And I think it would be a really interesting thing from the PR committee's perspective to have us look at maybe creating awards 3 times a year that are nominated by the administration staff or teachers that are going to honor opportunities in our school where either teachers or students are displaying curiosity, character, or courage. If this is something that the board would like for us to look at, the committee can look at it and draw up a plan.
I think you have to take it through your committee first, decide if the committee wants to do it, and then bring your plan to the board.
All right, thank you.
That's the way to do it.
I just want to go back, sorry, Jeremy, I don't want to belabor the point, but I just want to make sure, that the information that we get out of the survey is accurate and it's actionable, okay? I don't want to worry about, was there any misinterpretations? And so the 2 things that I worry about with misinterpretations is the wording, which you said you're going to fix. You're going to separate the 2 words into 2 separate questions.
So no, what I said I would do is the committee is going to look at how to investigate it.
Okay.
So whether or not we change and ask that same question or not, I don't know. I'll make a recommendation.
Okay, so you'll look into it, that's fine. And then the other misinterpretation I'm worried about is that, people will feel, I reached out to a board member and they didn't say anything back to me and they didn't follow up on an action item. And, the guy didn't seem very, welcome to, my request. And so, if you put yourself in their shoes, they have every right to feel that way because they probably got cold-shouldered. But to put some details around the request, it could have been that, I'm looking for a job and I am a teacher and can you put in a word for me? And the problem with all that is that's unethical and we'll get removed as trustees if you were to do something like that. So the concern I have is that we have to make sure that they have a clear understanding of what does it mean to be approachable. When I think of approachable, we're only approachable really as a governing body when we're together. And they should be able to be approachable during board meetings. And if we serve coffee and donuts during board meetings to encourage people to come out, I'm all for it, right? But to say that, the other avenues may be considered a positive or negative, like I reached out to that one board member and never responded back, so therefore they're not approachable. That would be an, injustice to the survey, right?
No, I hear you. I hear you 100%, Mr. Darian. I think that, like you mentioned, like, hey, they need to understand what it means to be approachable. I
Right.
think that makes sense.
Right.
I think we as a board also need to understand what it means to be responsive. And if a group of our community are giving us information in a survey, being responsive is doing our due diligence to look into it further.
Right.
And so as a board, I think this is our opportunity to shine.
Right.
And show that we're going to be responsive to what we see.
Right, and I'm glad you teed that up, because I was going to talk about responsive. I'm very frustrated as a trustee on how slow things are, within school systems. But having been doing this now for many years, I realize that, we're pretty quick, and we're slow because of the way things are structured. We will investigate something, and then we'll have our superintendent go off and do some studies, and then he'll come back and make a recommendation, and sometimes the recommendation's at a subcommittee level, which goes to the board, and all that takes time, and a lot of time, the parent community is not aware of that, so they see, a month go by, or maybe 2 months go by, 2 board meetings, or 4 board meetings, they don't see a resolution, and they think it's taking a very, very, very long time, there must be something wrong with this board, when in fact, that's just the way it's designed. So my concern is that if everyone understood how things functioned, and then you ask them those questions, I would be very comfortable with the responses. If we don't level set first, I'd be very weary, that's all. That's all I have to say. I'm trying to...
I think you're right, slow because things take time. I think we're also slow whenever we want to question results. And right now, we've spent almost 15 minutes talking about this as opposed to just agreeing that a task force makes sense. So let's be responsive. I'll go back to committee, happy to do it.
Okay, I'm just trying to offer some advice. I don't want this to go off to committee and then come back and then go,
Let's just get the answers.
No, I get it. And, look, I agree with you. I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the parent community, right? I just don't want this to stop and go back and stop and go back. You know what I mean?
I guess I hear some people saying that this isn't a problem.
Well, I'm not saying that.
All right, excellent.
Anything else?
No?
Tri-district, Dr. Westlake? No report. Open to the public.
I'm not going to complain. Actually,
Oh.
I wanted to take a moment, and I'm going to take my principal hat right now, so Megan Bozius, principal. I have had an amazing week at Oradell Public School, and so much that has happened this week is because of you. And I realized, I was talking to some principal friends, you may not know this, but October is Principal Month, so we tend to talk more and see each other more. And there are many things that are not envious about my job. It is the largest elementary school in Bergen County. As such, it has the most parents in Bergen County. It has parents that want the best for their children. It, as a one-school district, has a very involved Board of Education. However, I have something that most principals don't have. I have the ability to make change. And so this week, as I've talked to parents and I've talked to teachers, I've realized how amazing our 6th grade change has been thus far. That didn't happen because I wanted to just do it. It happened because you as a board were responsive to my idea and supported that thinking. And people don't always know that. They don't know that I don't get to just make change. It has to go through different steps. Additionally, we had something else happen this week that's kind of flown a little bit under the radar. We had our first set of October conferences this week. And I have been scared for weeks about it because it was a completely different paradigm shift, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. And I have had teachers come to me and say, at first I thought this was nuts, and I thought, like, there's no purpose in this, what are we going to say? And it's been so wonderful. I got to hear from parents about what they want for their children. I am now a team player with this parent because we've had a conference now. We've set the stage for the future. Teachers came to me and said, I was wrong. And that was awesome. That happened because you put the effort into a contract that changed the structure of conferences. I had sixth grade parents say to me, "This was amazing, I now know my teacher." We did something different, and it was scary as can be, but you gave me the opportunity to do that, you supported that, and what's so interesting about it, I'm getting the kudos for it, but the fact is it wouldn't have happened without you. So between the positive comments in this community about Open Circle, which would not have happened without your support, the positive comments about goal-setting conferences, and also the sixth grade model, which everyone is so happy with, it's only October. And think of all we've accomplished already. We still have a lot to do, but I just wanted to take a moment not to say we need to do more, because we do, but to say thank you for always supporting the changes that this administration has decided are in the best interest for children, because I always say to people when they say to me, why do you stay at Oradell Public School? You've heard me say this before, because I have two organizations that have stood behind me since the moment I got here, the Oradell PTA and the Oradell Board of Ed, who have said to me, dream it, and we'll help you achieve it. And this week really clarified that, and I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of my team.
One question. Are we ever having field day? I keep getting emails, or whatever, text flashes, I don't know what they
I will
are.
be honest, I have obviously over-communicated about field day, because I always click the option in our student management system that says all contacts. So one of our
We like it.
one of our custodians' children keeps calling him to say, field day's canceled again. He's a night custodian, he doesn't care. But everyone in Oradell knows, Friday, it's going to be lovely.
Nice, thank you for that. Yep.
Okay.
No pen.
Hi, Kelly Castro. I just wanted to add one more, kind of piggyback off Ms. Bozio's comment. This is really hard. I am one of three, I guess, chairs you call them, for CPAC, which is the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, and we have had a ton of positive feedback from our special education parents, both at the expo that Dr. Ansel was nice enough to mention, and we do coffees and other get-togethers, and it is our understanding that the board has really been supportive of Ms. Disler's changes. There have been a lot of changes, and a lot of the parents are very happy with many of them, and with Mrs. Disler herself. So we did want to thank you. We know it's a big part of the budget, and our children are doing well, and we are being brought into the picture more, so we can help our kids at home, and that's huge. So we really are grateful for that. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
The expo seems like it was amazing and people rated it high.
Yeah,
Why do you think only 12 parents came, and what do you think would get more to attend? Because it seems like it was a really good event.
I think it's because it was the first time we've ever done anything like that. I think anytime there's a first of anything, it's just hard to get parents out of their houses, especially at 7:30 at night. We are an elementary school, and that's a chaotic time. And, these are all special education parents, so things could be a little more challenging, you know what I mean? So I think it's just hard to get people to pry them out of the houses, and it has to be for a really good reason and almost a short thing. And hopefully the positive feedback will reach all of these parents, and next year it will be a bigger event. Yeah, we were really happy with it. We were really grateful that everyone came out.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, any old business? Any new business?
I wanted to congratulate the teachers of Oradell. I don't know if people saw the niche.com thing. I think they got it wrong. They said our teachers are number 33 in the state. I would argue that they're number 1, but nice to get the recognition nonetheless. So congratulations to all the teachers that work so hard.
Any other new business? Mrs. Walker?
just to sit here as a board member to thank the administration and our principal for a thank you. That I know our salary really helps take care of what we need, but a thank you is very much appreciated, and so happy to hear about the special ed and the efforts being made for their children. And yes, parents should be much a part of it, so thank you for sharing that and being such an active participant yourself, so.
I read the article. You know, we're ranked 33rd. But really, that's not fair. A lot of the schools ahead of us are either charter schools or technical schools, and so, you know, we're better than 33rd. I have issue with some of these rankings. But even still, we're in very good company. In Bergen County, in our area, there's only a few schools that are in front of us. One happens to be Harrington Park. That kills me. But guess who's there? But I did go into the specifics in terms of, you know, what makes up the rankings. And, you know, 30% is on grades. The other is on parent-student surveys. That's 25%. Teacher absenteeism is 15%. Teacher salaries, 10%. And we've got, I think, a big bump in there recently. So moving forward, we should be going up the list. Teachers in first and second year, the age of our teachers, 10%. The average teacher salary, once again, but that's 5%. And then the student-teacher ratio, which is 5%. So those were the metrics that were used in the rankings, and you know, we did very well. And I think that's an accomplishment. And you know, it's stuff that we have direct impact on here at the board. I mean, we've been pushing very hard to keep classroom sizes down. You know, we pushed hard to hire additional staff. The counselor, we didn't have a counselor before. I can just go through several other examples, but I'd just like to take that couple of minutes just to congratulate ourselves for all our hard work. Thank you.
It turned into congratulating the teachers to congratulating ourselves.
Well, there's just a different tone. You know?
Well, I
some
mean-
people are approachable and responsive, and some people are just kidding, Mr. Darian.
All right, I'm going to meet you downstairs, and I'm going to
We'll see you.
I'm going to show you the new facility.
I will approach you downstairs.
And now it's all about Mr. Darian with downstairs.
Any other new business? Okay, I have one. I thought Mr. Griffin was going to bring it up, but apparently he didn't. He forgot.
I'm happy to. Go ahead.
I'll do it.
Okay.
I'm going to give you the job anyway. So, Mr. Griffin and I had a discussion last week, I think. There's been a lot of things online that you've seen about regionalization of the districts. And one of the ones targeted is, of course, Oradell, River Edge, and Riverdale. So, Mr. Griffin had mentioned, rightly so, that we should, you know, if they're going to be discussing this, we should have a seat at the table somehow, or a voice somehow, because I don't think this is something that anyone in this town would really be for. I mean, some people talk about the taxes. It's not going to save us a dime. If anything, it may raise our taxes. So Mr. Griffin had talked about maybe going through PR and maybe reaching out to the board with a plan to see, we thought maybe see what other schools in Bergen County would be affected by this. I think this is something you could bring up also as delegate, and also, like, you know, see what other counties are doing, because if Bergen County, you know, the association is the biggest in the state. If Bergen County can get together with something, usually they can pass things. So I just think, would the board be interested in having PR start to look at something like this and see where, if we would want to be involved anyway?
Maybe they should look at the other committees in River Edge and Riverdale, get together and see, bring it up, because it's been, I think we still, I don't even know if we still have the lawyer.
Well, I think first step is to take it into PR, put together a plan, and really see who's going to be affected in Bergen County, and maybe start that way, not just River Edge and Riverdale, because if it's just us and nobody else, it's not going to go anywhere.
One of the things that we talked about, and I would love to pursue for next week, we're going to be at School Board Association, and it would seem to be a good time that if I can identify before we go there, the other Bergen County or other districts that are on that list, and maybe try to network and meet with some of them, you know, at least to gather some information. I'd be happy to spend some of my time that way to kind of network us to that.
I don't know if you're going to have time, but I think it's a conversation that Bergen County needs to get involved in somehow, because I don't think it's going to be, I know, there is a county meeting, but some of the districts are not going to be for it.
Is looking into regionalization.
I know, and it's not a good thing
It
for
might
us.
be, I haven't seen the classes, I haven't seen the subjects, but there might be a regionalization class. Or
I have strong personal feelings about this, but regardless of how I feel, I think that, I want to look at it the other way. You know, what if we didn't do anything and something were to happen? Or if regionalization were to happen and we did nothing?
Right.
I would have a hard time answering to the community why we chose to do nothing. So from that perspective, I think it's imperative that we do something.
I would just, because most of the board members here were here a number of years ago, but in the tri-district, the 3 superintendents, the board presidents, and teachers from each one of the constituent groups met and discussed different things. And it seems to me that you have the vehicle to do it. You just got to commit yourself to going ahead and doing it. I'll tell you, River Edge is in dire needs because of enrollment increases. We do too, but nothing compared to them. And so that might be a reason to meet now and see what alternatives that we have.
that $3 million that they got, they should take care of some of the students that they got added on.
Happy to continue looking into it. I mean, we talked about it the other day. I had it on my notes here, but I thought I had talked too much tonight, so I was not going to bring it up, so happy to.
I think it's great conversation. I think it's something that we should definitely do. The goal, the stated goal from the governor's office is to save the state money. That's not something
happen.
that, well, it may or may not happen, but
They've done studies, it's not going to happen.
but that goal has nothing to do with improving education. It has nothing to do with better serving local communities. It has nothing to do with the argument over governance, whether local or county or state governance is better. The argument is, we're just going to save some money in a budgetary crisis.
You won't.
Why should we try this out with our children? Why don't we do it somewhere else?
But we also have a tax inequity issue.
Well, locally, yeah, we have that other complication where
Right.
we're currently in a situation, with the regional schools where the taxes are calculated in a way that we pay more. And, and then to, the other issue where population growth is different between the two communities. So it's a very complicated problem locally, but the state doesn't care about that. The state only cares about saving money, according to the state themselves.
Right. I think you're right. It's a very complicated problem. We won't solve it tonight, that's for sure. But the thought of us making sure that as these decisions are being made, that maybe we are making sure that a voice from our district or whatever is there. Where is that table? How do we get a seat? Kind of deal.
I agree 100%.
Okay.
Mrs. Walker?
I'm sorry, John. I totally agree. I think we should be proactive on this. I also think another great resource here would be, even before we go down to the convention, and I don't know whether you as chair or PR or you want one of us or me to do it, is to reach out to school boards and to see how many districts. I'm pressed to think of a district in Bergen County. I know Ocean County, Long Beach Island and all, who had gone through the same attorney as we did and was unsuccessful with negotiating with regionalization. But besides that, I think it's important to see what school board's side is, and maybe to get some resource there, and also to check with them for the convention and with whom we might meet to discuss this.
Great idea. I'll make that note. Thank you.
I have the list, if you guys want the list of schools.
I've
Yeah.
seen it also.
You have it?
But I think reaching out to school boards to let them know we are concerned, we are proactive in looking into this and want to be a voice.
I thought the superintendents were going to look at a study between the 3 districts. What happened to that?
That was a demographic study just for the 3 districts. Is anything happening yet?
I have quotes. For a while, I was having some trouble, but I just got another one.
A cheaper one?
It just came to me today.
Okay.
So the
But-
the 3 districts would meet and have a study?
It didn't pan out that it was going to make a difference in the cost for us to combine or not combine. The demographers were going to charge us all separately, whether we did it jointly or we didn't.
Are
So-
the other 2 districts agreeable in having a study?
So when I spoke with Riverdell, they were still very interested. River Edge wanted to do their own separate one, but that was for a very specific reason. It had nothing to do with partnering with us. It had to do with developments that are, I guess, going up in their area. So she was looking for something very specific that wouldn't have
Well,
helped
that
us.
would be part of the study. When they go into River Edge and all the buildings that are going up in River Edge, that would be part of the study.
That's what they're going to do.
Right.
But they're doing it separately. They're doing it separately, we're doing it
So why
separately.
wouldn't they come in with us?
No, the people doing the study didn't want to combine. They wanted to keep it separate.
Right. The demographers were not going to give us a discount on the price for joining together. So that's not going to help us any. But Riverdell did say that they would be interested in doing something in partnership with us if we wanted to move forward.
But we need the other district. The last time we did it, when we did it in 95, we did it with the 3 districts.
Okay.
You're thinking more of a regionalization study?
Yeah.
So this is just more demographic study just to see what would be coming in. That was a full regionalization study. This one is not. This is just to see, how we're growing.
Well,
Would be part of the information that
Right.
was used.
Could be
in
used
the
to go forward.
regionalization, Possibly. I think that's what gets so confusing, is we're talking about regionalization and we're already in a regional position. The governor wants to change everything and make everything much more regional. It all depends on how that all works out, whether it can do anything to improve education, to improve, it all remains to be seen. It has to be looked at and not done without a lot of contemplation.
It doesn't sound like it's being done that way, though.
I know, but we need to step up and make sure that we remember we're here to educate our children.
Any other new business? No. We need a motion to go into closed session for personnel issues. If someone would make that motion. Catherine made the motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Walsh, second. We're going into closed session at 8:48. We will not be coming back or taking any action.